Hi, hello, hello, I'm back. It's an absolutely glorious day here in the Sonoran Desert. It's warm already, but as you can see, the wind is blowing a little bit. There's a slight breeze and it's not over 100 yet. So we have decided to do another video in the garden. We'll have to see for how much longer we can do that, If not, then we'll do them in the house again. Anyway, my story today is called Viola. That is the botanical name for violets. And I'm sure that everybody who's going to see this is going to say, what does she mean, Viola? That's pronounced Viola. Well, you can pronounce it however you want. And in America, it would be Viola. But let me be eccentric and call it what I want. Thank you for that one. One day when I was walking into the house, I could hear my parents talking, so I stopped because I thought, oops, maybe I shouldn't hear this. But then I heard my dad say something to my mother about, don't you have any more money? Look in your eiserne Reserve, iron reserve. My mother was a firm believer that you needed to save money because there could always be some tragedy or some rainy day, like she used to call it, and you needed to fall back. So I knew that my mother had a tin can that she put money in, and then whenever there was enough, she would actually go to the bank with it. And I think they always used to give her a dirty look because it was never really a lot of money. But anyway, so my dad said, go take a look because we need flour, we need sugar, we need eggs. I want the little one to bake a cake. She's watched me long enough now, and I know she can do it. And I really want to do this today. Go look and see how much money you have. Well, it wasn't quite enough, so my father was going, Henriette, Henriette, komm mal rein, come on in. So my grandma came in. She was about ready to leave, all gussied up and all dressed up. And my dad said, hey, can you give me a little bit of money? And she said, well, hold on, let me see. Reached in her bra, because she said that was the safest place for her to keep money, except the money she needed to go across the river on the ferry boat. And she said, yeah, I can give you a little bit. And so then my mother looked and she said, yeah, I think that I'm going to have enough. It'll be fine. So my dad said, okay, well, all set then. So tomorrow morning you go to the store and buy all the stuff that we need. My mother the next morning said, come here, Ankaline, we need to go to the store. The store was a private home where they had just sort of taken part of the living room and put up like a big bookshelf. And she sold things like flour and sugar and salt and rice. And sometimes she'd have some vegetables. Sometimes she'd have some cheese and sausage, stuff like that. But when we got to the corner that's where the big nursery was, where I worked, and then we had to turn left to go to the little store, all of a sudden I heard, Frau Freimann, Frau Freimann, Mrs. Freeman. I recognized the voice. It was Tante Clara. And Tante Clara came running out to the gate, and I really loved this lady. She was sort of plump. She had these really big boobs, and when she would either laugh or run, her boobs would jump up and down. And I just got attacked by a plant. Excuse me. And when she would really run and her boobs were bouncing up too much, she'd go, all right, now stay in place, stay in place. She was very, very funny. But anyway, she said, oh, I haven't seen you in so long. And, oh, yeah, there's my little one. And she always kissed me on the head. And she said, so what are you up to? And my mom said, well, we're going to the store because my husband is going to tell her tomorrow to bake a cake. And so she said, oh, wait, in that case, I can give you 2 eggs. And she said, pick them up on the way back so you don't have to carry them. So, that was very sweet of her. So Mom and I continued on to the store, and I liked this place because, I never knew what she might have for sale. Sometimes she had something really exotic, like oranges. Of course, we rarely bought those because that was too expensive, but that was fun to see stuff like that. And she had raisins and all sorts of things. So my mother gave her the list, and she would weigh the stuff out and put it in little paper bags. And then when she was ready, she would, we're standing here, here's this counter. She, of course, is on the other side, and she'd have a piece of paper and a pencil. And then she would say, okay, 1 Pfund Zucker, 1 Pfund Mehl, 1 pound flour, 1 pound sugar. Then she'd write it all down very carefully. Then she would write down how much it was. And then she would reach over and she would pull on my hair and she'd say, all right, now, when I say go, you go, and I will go. And as soon as you know how much the total is, you tell your mama. You whisper in her ear. This was a routine that we did because it started off one day when we were there because I was very nosy. I was a sweet child, but incredibly nosy and inquisitive. And I would stand like this and look at the numbers, and in my mind I'd go, and I added it up, and then I pulled my mother down and I said, Mama, that's wrong. My mother said, what do you mean that's wrong? I said, Frau Wiedemeyer added it up wrong. It's different. And my mom said, well, wait a minute. What is it? Tell me. So I whispered it. And then she looked at me and she said, oh, this is really funny. That is different. So you're probably wrong. So Frau Wiedemeyer said, what are you whispering about? What are you talking about? And I said, well, I'm not sure I'm allowed to tell you this. And Frau Wiedemeyer said, what is it? Just tell me. I think you added that up wrong. And she just looked at me and she said, what? You added it? I said, yeah, I did. And I have a different number. And it's a little bit more. It's 12 Pfennig more. She said, you're kidding. Well, let me just try it. So she added up and she said, I can't believe it. The little one is right. That's unbelievable. Well, you're a little genius. So then from then on, she called me her little abacus. She said, where's the abacus? So this is my routine. I would always stand there, and then as soon as I had it added up, I would whisper to my mom. And then, when it was right, Frau Wiedemeyer said, well, I guess I win a prize. But it was amazing to her that I could add up these numbers upside down. And when we were there that day, Frau Wiedemeyer said, you know what? That little girl, she's going to go far in life because I've never known a little kid who could do this. And I just said, well, I'm really good at math. I'm good at numbers. I really like numbers. They're sort of fun. So when we were all done, my mother said, it's really cute that you always add that up. She said, that's a good thing. That'll help you later when you're a big girl. So when we walked by the nursery again, Clara was outside working. She said, hey, come in, come on. You got to get the eggs. The little one needs to go in the Hühnerstall and pick out the eggs that she wants because she only likes brown ones. And she knows how to pick the real big ones, so you get 2 big eggs. We also had bought some eggs because my mother knew we were going to need more than 2. But anyway, so we got home, and my dad said, okay, I have a surprise for you. And he walked out, and I thought, I wonder what he's doing. And he came back, and oh my God, I couldn't believe it. He said, here, look at this. My mother had made a little apron for me, which I didn't know. And it was white, and it had purple flowers on it, because purple was my favorite color. It had a little pocket, and it had really long strings, so I could make a big bow in the back. And it was really sweet. It was a big, almost like a round apron, and it had a little ruffle going all the way around it. And I was just over the moon. I went, oh, now I'm a real kitchen helper, right? And my father said, yes, you are. So he said, okay, now, you're going to pretend that I have never baked a cake. I don't know anything. So you tell me step by step and in the right sequence, not like I do it sometime, right? And you say from the beginning to the very, how do you do it? And I said, okay, first I do mise en place. And my mother said, you know, when you say these French words, you know, I don't really, what does that mean? I said, well, Mama, it's when you put all your ingredients on the counter before you start to bake or cook. You need to make sure you have everything. And my mother just shook her head and she walked out. She said, okay, you two, that's all right. I'm just going to go work in the garden. So my father said, okay, what do you need? Flour, sugar, milk, baking powder, eggs. Okay, how many eggs? And I said, oh, Papa, you know. And he said, no, I have never done this. You tell me exactly how to do this. What are you doing? About the flour, how does that work? Well, I get the scale and I weigh it and then I put it in the flour dish. Then what? Then I take the sugar and I weigh it. I put it in the sugar dish. Then what? Well, then I put some milk in that little cup. But let's get back to the eggs. What about the eggs? It all depends. Depends on what? He said, come on, tell me. I said, if the eggs are big, I use 3. If the eggs are small, I may have to use 4 or 5. And he said, good. Yeah, you have really listened. Okay, so where's the big bowl so that you can mix the dough? And that we had this huge big bowl that we used and like a wooden spoon. You know, there was nothing electric, obviously, back in those days. And he said, and what size are you going to make it? I said, oh, I want him to make a round cake because I want to make it pretty. Okay, great. So I mixed the dough, I got the big baking pan, and he said, okay, what are you doing with that? Did you turn the oven on? I said, yes, I did. And is it warm now? I said, yeah, it's all ready to go. And he said, what about the pan? Oh, I said, yeah, wait. I have to put a little bit of butter in the bottom and all the way around the ring, and then I put flour, and I make it go in there everywhere. Okay, so now you're all ready to go? And what do you need when you think the cake is ready? And I said, oh, wait a minute. Let me go in my little bag. And he said, what do you mean in your little bag? Well, you know the bag I have with the yarn that Grandma brought me, and it has a crochet hook and the knitting needles? Okay, I thought we were baking a cake. He's all laughing. And I said, well, yeah, but I need the knitting needle when the cake is ready. I put it in the cake to see if it's done. And he said, oh, well, smart girl. Okay, so you're all ready to go then. That's fine. And what are you going to do then while it's baking? And I said, well, I heard you talking yesterday, and I knew that I was going to bake a cake today. So guess what I did? And he said, well, I have no idea. With you, who could tell? You're always up to something. And I said, well, I went in the garden and I picked violas. And then I made sure that they were all dry, and I took a little brush, and I knew we had 1 egg. So I asked Mama if I could use it, and I told her that I wanted it to be a surprise. I didn't want her to tell you. So she said, yeah, it's okay. So I took only the egg white and I beat it and I put water in it a little bit. Then I took a tiny little brush and I painted all the leaves of the violas. Then I put sugar on it and I put it on a little plate, and it's in the back of the refrigerator. I didn't want you to see I did that. And he said, remember, I don't know anything. Why did you do a silly thing like that? And I said, no, it's not a silly thing. You're the one who taught me that. That's how you make flowers that can go on the cake. That's my decoration. And he just started laughing and he said, well, you really have been listening to me. That's good. That's really good. So he said, what about your cake? Is it almost ready? And I said, yeah, I smell it. It smells almost done. I better go see. So we went in and I opened the door to the oven and I put my sewing pit, my knitting needle in there. And yeah, it came out dry. He said, okay, it's ready. So we took it out and I said, okay, now it has to stand on something. Oh, where's the little grate? I don't know what I did with it. And he said, I wonder whether you were going to remember that. And I said, yeah, no, it has to cool now. And he said, okay, and then now what are you doing? This plant really does like me. I like it too. Could you stay over there? Thank you. And he said, what are you going to do about the cake now? I said, well, it's going to cool off. And then I'm going to make a glaze. Really? How are you going to do that? There's powdered sugar. I have to make it go through the strainer first. And then I'm going to take a little bit of this liqueur that Grandma's girlfriend brought. It's that liqueur called Parfait d'Amour. She bought it. He said, I didn't even know your grandma had that. I said, yeah, it's a really tiny little bottle, and it's purple. And Grandma lets me have like a teaspoon of it, and I really like it. It's sort of like the stuff that you drink, but this is sweeter, and I like it better. And it's purple. And she said, did you ask her? Yes. I said, Grandma said that I can use a little bit of that. So I made my glaze. I took the powdered sugar, and I couldn't really take enough of the liqueur, so I poured a little bit of milk in with it. And when the cake was all cool, I poured the glaze over it, and it was really pretty. I said the other day, I really wish we would have had a camera, but you know, I remember what it looked like, but I wish I had a photo to show you. So here was this cake that had this pale lavender sugary glaze over it, and just running down on the side like every 2 or 3 inches because there wasn't enough. And then I said, okay, and now comes the very special thing. And my dad said, okay, wait a minute, drum roll, brrr, brrr. What's the special thing? I said, my flowers, of course. So then I put all the little flowers around the cake, and I put one in the middle. And he said, okay, is it done now? And I said, yes, but now I have to find a tablecloth for the table outside, and I have to put a little vase with flowers, and I have to put one candle, and then I can tell Grandma and Mama that we can go outside and we can have coffee on kuchen. First I have to make everything pretty, and maybe I have to comb my hair. Mama always says that I have to look nice when I sit down at the table, but I would like to wear my apron if that's okay. And my dad said, oh, I'm sure that they will just love that. He said, so you set the table out there, make it all pretty, and then you tell them that you're ready. And he said, your cake is absolutely gorgeous. And he said, remember what I told you? First of all, you never cook or bake when you're angry or sad, and you weren't. You were happy. And the first thing you see with food, you see it, you look at it. So you have to make it look very, very pretty. The second thing is that it needs to taste good, but that's not the first part. The first part is that visual effect. The first time you see something, you look at it and you go, would I like to eat that? And if it looks really bad, it probably won't taste really good. So you did a really good job, you learned. So, okay, tell them it's time. So I looked for my mom, and I brought my grandma, and we all sat out there. I was very proud of myself because my cake really did look very pretty. So then my dad said, okay, you're allowed to cut the first piece. And if this tastes terrible, you know what? We're going to sell you to the gypsies. We're just going to give you away. Both my mother and grandmother, of course, they were cracking up laughing. And I said, really? You can do that? And my father said, no, I'm joking. We would never sell you to anybody. We would never give you to anybody. But you just said that. Well, it was a joke. Oh, okay, Papa. Sometimes I don't know when you're joking. My mother said, you're not alone. I'm not always sure either. But it was so sweet. They all hugged me and told me not only did it look beautiful, but it was delicious. And my grandmother, who was a very petite little French woman, I mean, she was like 5 feet tall. I don't think she ever weighed more than 85 pounds, and she ate like a little bird. She never had 2 pieces of cake. Oh, thank you. That was my grandma. She just threw a flower down. How nice. She had a very tiny piece, and I almost fell off my little chair. She said, you know, this is so good. May I have a second piece? And I thought, oh my God, yeah, now I know my cake is like super good. That's it. That's my story for today. I hope you enjoy it and you stay safe. Toodaloo.